Hi, welcome back to Our Town. My name is Chip Harrington. I'll be your host once again this week. This is our weekly show where we try to profile different people or issues we have in the Pioneer Valley on a regular basis. And today we're going to continue our series with our district attorney candidates. As most of you hopefully know, there is a race, a big race going on for district attorney. The primary is set for September 9th, and there are 4 Democrats vying to be your next district attorney here in Hampden County. As you know, District Attorney Mark Mastrani recently took a position with the federal government as a judge, so that has kind of springboarded a few people to get involved in the race. We have invited all the candidates on, and today Mr. Hal Etkin, who is a candidate, has accepted our invitation to come in. We're going to talk to Hal about his background, his experience, his education, and just what he would like to see the Hampden County District Attorney's Office do and become. As I mentioned, this is kind of getting down to short time here for the primary. It's just a few more months away, so I really encourage anyone out there watching to look up all these candidates' websites and find out who they are and reach out to them. Every one of these people are certainly accessible. Reach out to them if you have questions. They're both on, all 4 of them are on the campaign trail, and they would be certainly happy to hear from anybody. So, having all that said, Hal, thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Chip. It's great to be here in Ludlow. Mm-hmm. Ludlow has always been a very special place for me. In fact, when I've been married 29 years, when my wife and I were going to buy our first house, the only bank that would give us a loan was the LUSA Credit Union. So if I can give them a plug, way back when I was just starting out as an attorney, not having much money, we looked around, and that was very, very nice. In fact, John Dyas, a former attorney who passed away several years ago, actually did the closing. So Ludlow has always been very, very, important to me. In fact, I have many friends from Ludlow. When I went to John Auclair, who was very involved in Ludlow politics, was a very good friend of mine back in he went to the High School of Commerce, and now he resides in Ludlow. Dave LaFortune, who I believe was a quarterback here in 1975, he and I attended the University of Massachusetts together. So lots of friends in Ludlow. Bill Rooney, your selectman in Ludlow, has endorsed me for District Attorney of Hampden County. I'm very proud to say. And I have 5 relatives I have who live in Ludlow. My Uncle Ham, Ham Etkin, lives in Ludlow. Michael and Denise Burek, Michael Gazo and his wife Connie O'Brien, Steve and Anna Etkin, and I think there's Tom and Joanne Gazo are also my cousins. So Ludlow has always been very important to me.
Yeah, it's a great town. I've lived here my whole life, so you're preaching to the choir when you tell me how good this town is.
Well, it's important to understand that, because a lot of times when you're a candidate for district attorney, you tend to just focus on the cities. Certainly Springfield, Chicopee, and Holyoke, and especially Springfield and Holyoke, have unique problems facing crime. But it's not, you don't ever want to forget the other towns that make up Hampden County. They'll also have their own challenges regarding crime, and sometimes they're completely different. But the needs are just as important in terms of meeting the residents' goals and crime reduction.
Yeah, right. Well, before we really get into the nitty-gritty issues like you're talking about with crime, give everybody a sense of your background, where you're from, you're born and raised, and all that.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Springfield, Massachusetts. I was educated in the Springfield school system, which gave me a interesting idea in terms of it was a wonderful experience, because I met a lot of people who I'm still friends with today. Unfortunately for me, my parents died when I was 14, and it was a tough thing, because I was raised by my brother and my 2 sisters, who decided to step in and make sure that I wasn't taken by the state. And that experience, as much as they were good brothers and sisters, I had to grow up fast, and living in the North End until college kind of taught me a sense of you meet some very, very nice people, but there are challenges growing up in the intercity. After that, I graduated from high school. I worked for a little while to save money to attend college, where I went to college and met Dave LaFortune, but more importantly, met my wife. She was from Greenfield, and She came down 20 miles, I went up 20 miles, and we started dating, and I made a promise to her that once I graduated from college and I was able to get into law school, where I attended the University of Western New England University School of Law, we would get married upon my achieving my first job, where I started working for the Hampden County District Attorney's Office. We have one child, Sarah, who now attends the University of Mass, and she's a theater major. And it's been, I wish I had more children, but she's a wonderful daughter, and I think it's important to have those life experiences when you run for district attorney, in terms of understanding what people go through, having a family, paying their mortgages, and making sure that the needs of their family are taken care of.
Well, it's a very good point, because in all races, I think all positions, it's really important to have some life experience. If you're going to go and make a decision that's going to set policy for Hampden County in some way, you need something to draw from. And clearly you have the experience as an attorney, as a prosecutor, but life experience in general too. As you mentioned, tragically you lost your parents very young, and you were forced to kind of grow up unlike, most people don't experience something like that, thankfully.
Yeah. It has allowed me to kind of see things in a different perspective. People sometimes make mistakes. There has been a lot of situations where in my life, fortunately there was people there to kind of give me guidance in terms of making the right decision. And I think it's important sometimes. I think we live in a society now where there's a lot of people who don't have that. They don't have people who care about them and giving them guidance. And I think, the role of the district attorney is important to kind of remember that. I have put together a lot of programs dealing with diversion. If people make a mistake, I don't think the first option is to send them to jail. I think we can work with those individuals to find out why they did what they did, to fashion certain conditions to make sure that they never do that again, thus saving them from having a criminal record, and thus saving the taxpayers the obligation to help to monitor them or put them in jail and pay money that could be used in a better sense.
Mm-hmm. So you graduated from Western New England School of Law, and you mentioned your first job was as a prosecutor. Tell us about your professional career. Like, how did you get to where you are today?
Well, I probably had a lot of positions that have helped me to decide to run for district attorney. When I was in the law school, I applied for an internship with the DA's office. And, that was a wonderful experience because it kind of taught me what I wanted to do with my legal training. Being able to prosecute people who violated the law in some ways can be a very rewarding job, knowing that you're protecting society. And having that as an internship where I was able to do I helped a lot of appeals, I wrote motions to dismiss, and I was able to do a good job. So at a point where when there was a job opening, I was offered a job there, where I was there actually a total of 12 years. The first 4 years was in district court, which I like to refer to as the people's court. And what I mean by that is, for most people who get in trouble or people who are victims of crime, you're going to go to the district court. The district court is like the people's court. Most minor felonies and misdemeanors are handled there. I spent 4 years there. And I also had the option of traveling to some of the other outlining courts like Westfield and Palmer, getting to know the personnel who worked there. Doing a good job there, I was selected to do some special programs on behalf of the district attorney's office. Back at that stage, the idea of using videotape to investigate and prosecute people for OUI was a new thing.
Videotape in a police car and also in the station?
Also in the station. Mm-hmm. And I brought that concept to the Western Mass Police Departments, which was adopted at a time and used very, very well. The second program that I was able to develop was a program we called Project DA, which was Project Drug Awareness, where members of the district attorney's office, staff, victim witness, would go to schools and speak to students about the dangers of substance abuse and why they shouldn't be involved in substance abuse. That was a very successful program. It later became absorbed in the DARE program,
Right.
which ran for many, many years as a successful program to encourage kids not to use or abuse drugs. After doing those two things, I was selected. I was promoted to Superior Court, where I ran the child abuse unit. Now, at the time when I ran the child abuse unit, we were one of 6 sites across the country to be selected by the federal government as one of the best prosecution units to work on child abuse cases. We developed the SANE program, which is the Sexual Abuse Intervention Network, which is now has evolved into Children Advocacy Centers, right, where the child is interviewed at the same time by a medical personnel, a police officer, a social worker, someone from the DA's office, to reduce trauma and increase the collection of evidence so that a lot of these cases don't have to go to trial and we would have successful prosecutions. My work on behalf of the unit and on behalf of the office, I was selected to be advisor to the National Center on Child Abuse in Washington, D.C. So what was important about doing that in the District Attorney's Office was I was the supervisor of state police, private investigators, special victim witness advocates, secretaries. I wrote grants. I was almost a DA's office within the DA's office, where it's important to kind of have that managerial training that you need to maybe be the district attorney to run the whole office. After leaving the district attorney's office, I spent 5 years working for the city of Springfield as a litigator, where I was an attorney for the License Commission, which is very important to have that training in Chapter 138, which governs liquor laws, because of what's happening in Springfield in terms of some bars maybe staying open or not complying with their licensing requirements as to having enough security on hand. There's been a lot of violence in the downtown area, and a lot of it has to do with maybe the bars and the liquor establishments maybe encouraging or at least allowing that condition to develop. After doing that, I taught at Bay Path, which is a college in Long Meadow, on Intro to Criminal Justice and a variety of other courses. I have taught at Springfield Technical Community College on criminal law courses. I have taught for some of the Boston schools. And then after that, I ran the police academy for 10 years. I was actually there longer. When I was in the DA's office, I was selected as the liaison between the district attorney's office and the regional police academy. But while I was academy director, I was able to expand the mission of the facility. We trained thousands of police officers, including the Ludlow police officer, Allison Metcalf, who did a wonderful job rescuing that dog. And it really warms my heart. And she's a model police officer to have done something like that, not just go out there and rescue the dog, but to take care of the dog.
Yeah.
What an example of an outstanding police officer.
Jameson, her dog's name.
Jameson. I follow his Facebook page.
Yeah, me too.
And aside from training thousands of police officers, we were able to expand the mission where we had the state police open their crime lab there. We also were able to get the Hampden County Gang Task Force, which was made up of FBI, ATF, members of the Sheriff's Department, local police, to work on gang activity. And the State Police Accident Reconstruction Team also located at that facility. So it actually became the heart of the Western Mass, I think, law enforcement community.
That was actually the first time I met you, because when I went through the academy for the Sheriff's Department under Mike Ash, you were running the academy at the time. That was I want to say 91 or 2, I can't remember specifically, but right at that time, and that was at the the similar training that what the police got. So that was the first time I came in contact with you. You had mentioned early on that when we first started talking about the violence and the drugs and things taking place within the cities. And it's no secret now anymore, but the suburbs are really suffering quite a bit with prescription drugs and the OxyContins, and heroin specifically has just exploded this summer. And you and I have been on a campaign trail together. You've heard me say it, I've heard you say it as well too. it's significant. How do we, as the top law enforcement figure in Hampden County, along with the sheriff, how do we combat this? Because we can't, you can't, just say, don't do drugs. That's not going to work. You need offense and defense when you're combating this. So what's your plan for that?
Yeah. Well, since I started my campaign on February 3rd, I have been releasing what I call Monday initiatives, where every week on my website I put out a new proposal how the district attorney can help to victims and reduce crime. Because what you said is very, very important, and a lot of people don't understand that. The district attorney is the chief law enforcement officer. And what that means is the district attorney is really responsible, I think, for the type and level of crime that we have. The district attorney should be, in some ways, directing and assisting the police departments in helping to prevent crime. And most jurisdictions are moving towards that. The idea of a district attorney is just being in the courtroom and prosecuting crime. I mean, that's really is the old model that doesn't work anymore. But in terms of answering your question, you're right. You need kind of like a two-prong approach. And one of the initiatives that I offer is really treatment. Rather than arresting people who have an addiction problem, would be to provide money in terms of drug forfeiture money, grants, to provide treatment models for these individuals. A couple months back, there was some closures of medical facilities in Adams, and people lost their jobs. I would like to see maybe if some back-end money, which we normally set aside for corrections, to be used to maybe provide treatment for these individuals. I don't think these individuals, it's very hard when you have a substance abuse addiction, especially of an opiate nature, to fight. And incarceration isn't the best answer. But saying that, and I think in terms of a harder approach is, who's bringing these drugs in? Where these drugs aren't magically just showing up one day. And I think the role of law enforcement should be encouraged to work these cases in a way where you find out where the stuff is coming in. Because those people who are bringing these pills and are creating the avenue for people to destroy themselves, and that's what's happening. People are dying from the use of these opiate products. We need to find out those individuals who are bringing the drugs in, build a case against them, and incarcerate them for a long period of time. So often, I think that's when you talk about drug abuse or violation of drug crimes, it just seems like people at the lower level are being arrested.